Hello everybody, my name is Haochang.
Hi everybody, my name is Sungyeon Hwang.
We are here to have a summary video for the graphic anatomy at GSAPP's reading materials and lectures.
Bao is constituted with two architects. The first one is Yoshihara Tsukamoto. He's from Tokyo and graduated from Tokyo Institute of Technology. And the second is Momoyo Kajima. She was also born in Tokyo and she was studying at ETH from Zurich.
GSAPP is trying to conclude both architectural and non-architectural elements in their drawings, which is a very different illustration for the drawing things. So in graphic anatomy, they're trying to use this kind of way to illustrate what they are trying to do and why they are trying to do this kind of thing. Graphic Anatomy is a series of 2 books. It includes a new sense of spatial depth in house illustration, which simultaneously attempting to catalog 24 previous house designs by GSAPP.
From now on, we'll find why he decided this kind of method of studying.
Firstly, GSAPP raise a question that what enables the intermixing of the planned and occupied spaces that belong to different temporal orders. Instead of directly answering the questions, the author examined the questions with the genealogical study of drawings methods with the following cases. The cases are Paul Rudolph's section perspective, Ballet's drawings, and the copper plates etching, the folding screen painting, the drawing doubling up, and the work for Ichiro Koyuchi's research laboratory. In the Paul Rudolph's Yale Art and Architectural Buildings, it's trying to provide a vision for architectural equals to city and expanding the architectural versus the shrinking of a city. As for Bully's design work, the GSAPP trying to argue for that they're trying to provide a vision for architecture that equals to space. In the copper plate etching, the GSAPP trying to find a very interesting point that with the drawings they present things without distinction of past and the present, which they can offer things with the same frames but with the different times order. And with the folding screen painting, they find which is very important for their drawings because that shows the variation of behaviors that could occur with the equal widths and in the same moment, which has a very great influence on their drawings. With the drawings of the doubling up and the coherent literatures, the GSAPP also want to show that a city is a place where there is an inherent demand, and this is another elaboration for their thinking about the things with the equal importance with what is shown on the whole things. With the work of the research laboratory, which also show the framework of the anterior plannings can prescribe the possibilities for the posterior occupations. So from that on, they're trying to find a kind of relationship between the anterior realm and the posterior realms.
After modernization, the city was totally changed. People began to realize that the functionalist architectural constructions in urban spaces that had been promoted and established during modernization were starting to grow beyond humanistic scales, and that they erect a feeling of suitable for living, an organic quality necessary for achieving unity between a place and its regional land and climate, and a sense of complexity in which diverse values can stably coexist. There are several key points about their works. The first one is space occupation. So they go back to the human scale. They want to decide to choose furniture, flooring patterns, animal planning, and so on. They want to go back to the human scale and day-to-day items. So in their drawing, they will draw a furniture and human and everyday activity, not just for specific form of their building. Second thought is how the architectural was composed. They think diverse objects and phenomena are interrelated, emerged as a result of depicting all of these elements together. More specific, they can use one perspective drawing, but it's not just in perspective, it includes all of the information, for instance, structure or activity and the sectional information and so on. Last is their concept of architecture, which is anterior and posterior, and they believe that the behavior of each element is determined by the relationship between the immanent principle within the element and the context that regulates the extent to which it can perform its behavior. So, by seeing their drawing, we can see not just for posterior and not even just for anterior. We can see all of the posterior and anterior, and from that relationship, we can easily recognize the whole relationship of building, and it makes everyday life.
With the equal line weights, the atelier bow while trying to argue so many different issues with just one perspective, which also illustrates that they consider all the things with the imaginary of the activity life, and they will be really helpful for them to trying to design buildings and consider the whole things with the urban textual and the interior connections with each kind of space.
Back to the lecture, there are some important sentences that she argued is that the first one is, I don't like a big space. And the second is, this drawing is for everyone, not just for a specific client, not just for a specific designer, not just for architects, not just for constructor. This drawing is for everyone. And the third is, I want a more constant, much more in their life rather than just a building. And the last thing that I am so impressed is that this type of drawing is not the end of design, but in the process of design.
For the argument, we can kind of understand the whole theory systems of Atelier Bao, including the graphic anatomy with the pet house and the demi-architectural things. They're trying to find a better way to design with the whole urban conditions of Tokyo or the whole Japan. And in reality, it proves to be a success for their design.
In my opinion, their studying method, which is plan and section and perspective and all together, is very helpful for their studying because by doing so, they can easily recognize the whole relationship between the space.
As for their graphic things, even though there has a lot of advantages, but they are kind of question on that. For the second one is like with the vision of their graphic things, they kind of think the issue from one existing specific perspective, but how about the other perspective things and the other angles? What's more, the human activities are kind of imaginary work at the posterior realm, so it may not be actually happened, so they are just a kind of imagining things rather than the reality.
But in other perspective of view, their contents of book is too restricted to understand most of building. For example, there are not much of information about their exterior and surrounding buildings.
However, all in all, we think that this way to design or to draw is still good for students to learn because we should try to provide human activities rather than specific geometry form so that we can check how the space works with the activities, life, and with the furnitures.
So their final goal and the studying method shows that how the architecture was composed and their Their goal is equilibrium of different layers of architectural issues, activities, structures, and so on, a way of studying what they pursue. Yep, thank you for the listening. I'm Sungyeon.
I'm Haochang. Thank you.